The auctioneer's voice echoed through the cramped village square as Amara stood on the wooden platform, her wrist bound with coarse rope that bit into her skin. Tears streamed down her face, but she had long stopped making sounds. Around her, men examined her like cattle, discussing her worth in cold, transactional terms. Her own mother stood in the crowd, stone-faced, counting the money already promised by the highest bidder. "She is strong, she can walk," the auctioneer continued, his voice carrying over the murmuring crowd. 25 years old, healthy, obedient. But Amara knew the truth that made her worthless in their eyes. She was barren. After 7 years of marriage, her womb had remained empty, and her husband had sent her back to her parents in disgrace. Now, those same parents who had raised her, fed her, and pretended to love her, were selling her to pay off debts and save face in the community. A wealthy merchant from the neighboring village raised his hand, offering a sum that made the crowd gasp. Amara's father nodded eagerly, already reaching for the money. This was it. This was how her story would end, sold like property because her body had failed the one test that seemed to matter. Just as the auctioneer prepared to strike the deal, a convoy of black SUVs rolled into the village square, kicking up red dust that made everyone turn and shield their eyes. The vehicles were sleek and expensive, completely out of place in this rural setting. When the doors opened, bodyguards emerged first, followed by a man whose presence commanded immediate silence. He was tall, with graying hair at his temples and eyes that seemed to see through every pretense. His suit probably cost more than most people in the village would earn in 5 years. This was Kofi Mensah, the billionaire whose business empire stretched across 3 countries, whose face appeared in newspapers and on television screens. And he was walking straight toward the platform where Amara stood. "Stop this immediately," he said, his voice quiet but carrying absolute authority. The auctioneer stammered, "Sir, this is a private family matter." Kofi's eyes swept over the crowd before landing on Amara's parents. "How much?" he asked simply. Amara's father, sensing an opportunity, named a sum 5 times what the merchant had offered. The crowd gasped again, but Kofi didn't even blink. He nodded to one of his men, who immediately produced a briefcase and began counting out cash. But then Kofi did something no one expected. He walked up to the platform, removed his own jacket, and placed it around Amara's trembling shoulders. He untied her wrist himself, his movements gentle and deliberate. When he spoke, it was directly to her, ignoring everyone else. "What is your name?" "Amara," she whispered, her voice hoarse from crying. "Amara, I am going to ask you a question, and I need you to answer honestly. Do you want to come with me?" She looked into his eyes, searching for the cruelty she had learned to expect from men, from the world. But all she saw was a deep, unspoken sadness that somehow matched her own. Behind him, her parents were already celebrating their windfall. The merchant who had bid on her looked angry at losing his prize. The entire village watched with hungry, judgmental eyes. What choice did she really have? But something in the way this stranger had covered her, had freed her hands, had asked her permission, made her nod. "Yes," she said. Kofi turned to her parents. "I am paying you this money, but understand this clearly, I am not buying your daughter. I am buying her freedom from you. She will never be sold again. She will never be treated as property again. If you ever come near her, if you ever try to claim her or demand anything from her, you will answer to me. Do you understand?" Her father nodded quickly, already clutching the money. Her mother looked away, perhaps feeling the first stirring of shame, but not enough to matter. As Kofi led Amara to one of the vehicles, she heard the whisper starting. "Why would a billionaire want a barren woman? He has 4 children already. What does he need with her? Maybe he wants a servant. Maybe he knows something we don't." Amara climbed into the vehicle, and as it pulled away from the only home she had ever known, she realized she had no idea where she was going or what would happen to her next. She glanced at Kofi, who was making calls on his phone, speaking in low tones about business matters that meant nothing to her. Finally, sensing her gaze, he ended the call and turned to her. "You are probably wondering why I did that," he said. Amara nodded, unable to find her voice. Kofi's expression grew darker, more complex. "Because 10 years ago, I lost my wife. The woman I loved more than life itself. And on the day she died, I made her a promise." He paused, his jaw tightening. "A promise that involves you, though you don't know it yet." The vehicle drove on through the gathering darkness, carrying Amara toward a future she couldn't begin to imagine, with a man whose words had just raised 1,000 new questions. What promise? Why her? And what did any of this have to do with his dead wife? The mystery deepened as they drove through the night, and Amara realized her story was far from over. It was only just beginning. 3 months earlier, in the sprawling Mensa estate that overlooked the capital city, Kofi had sat in his late wife's favorite room, surrounded by her paintings and photographs. It was the anniversary of her death, and like every year, he spent it alone, talking to her as if she could still hear him. "The children are struggling, Ada," he said to the portrait that hung above the fireplace. In it, his wife smiled with that knowing, gentle expression he had fallen in love with. "Naledi is 16 now and so angry. She blames me for not being there when you needed me. Kwame is 14 and failing school because he doesn't see the point of anything anymore. The twins, Omar and Abina, they're only 10, and they barely remember your voice." He paused, whiskey glass trembling in his hand. "I've given them everything. Every material thing they could want. But I can't give them what they need. I can't give them you." The room was silent except for the ticking of an antique clock Ada had bought at a market years ago. She had always loved old things, forgotten things, things other people overlooked. She saw value where others saw waste. "I've been thinking about what you said," Kofi continued, his voice breaking. "That last day in the hospital. Do you remember? You made me promise something, and I thought you were delirious from the pain medication. But you grabbed my hand so tight, and you made me swear." He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the manicured gardens that Ada had designed. Everything in this house bore her touch, her vision, her love. And without her, it all felt like an empty museum. "You said, find someone the world has rejected. Find someone who knows what it means to lose everything. Find someone who has been broken by the cruelty of others. And give her a chance to heal by helping our children heal. Promise me, Kofi. Promise me you won't marry someone polished and perfect. Promise me you choose with your heart, not your head." At the time, drowning in grief as Ada slipped away, Kofi had promised anything. But in the years since, he had convinced himself she hadn't meant it literally. How could he? How could a billionaire businessman, a man whose decisions affected thousands of employees and millions in revenue, choose a wife based on such criteria? But lately, the children's pain had become impossible to ignore. Naledi had been caught sneaking out to dangerous parts of the city, as if daring something terrible to happen to her. Kwame had stopped eating properly, his frame growing thinner by the week. The twins had nightmares that left them screaming for a mother who would never come. Kofi had hired nannies, tutors, therapists. He had taken time off work, tried to be present, tried to fill the void Ada had left. Nothing worked. The house was full of people, but everyone in it was desperately, achingly alone. "I'll do it," he said to Ada's portrait. "I don't know how, but I'll keep my promise. I'll find her." That decision had set everything in motion. Kofi had begun traveling to rural areas under the pretense of scouting new business locations. But really, he was searching. Looking for the woman Ada had described. Someone rejected. Someone broken. Someone who understood loss. He had seen poverty, illness, desperation. He had helped where he could, donating to schools and clinics, funding water projects and agricultural programs. But he hadn't found her. The woman who was meant to help save his family. Until that day in the village square. When Kofi's driver had taken a wrong turn and they ended up in that small community, he had almost told them to turn around immediately. But then he saw the crowd gathered, heard the auctioneer's voice, and something compelled him to investigate. The moment he saw Amara on that platform, tears streaming down her face but chin held high despite everything, the moment he heard the crowd discussing her barrenness as if it made her worthless, something in his chest tightened. He heard Ada's voice as clearly as if she were standing beside him. This one. She's the one. Now, driving through the night with Amara sitting silently beside him, Kofi wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. How could he explain any of this to her? How could he tell her that he had saved her not entirely out of altruism, but because he needed her? That his children needed her. That he was asking her to step into the shoes of a beloved woman and somehow help a broken family heal. Where are we going? Amara finally asked, her voice small. To my home, Kofi replied. To meet my children. They don't know you're coming. They don't know anything about this yet. Amara turned to look at him fully for the first time. Why did you really buy my freedom? Please, tell me the truth. Kofi met her gaze. Because 10 years ago, my wife died. And before she did, she made me promise to find someone exactly like you. Like me. Amara's voice was bitter. A woman whose own parents sold her. A woman who can't have children. What could your wife possibly want with someone like me? She believed, Kofi said slowly, that the people who have survived the worst kind of pain are the only ones who can truly help others heal. She believed that someone who had been rejected and broken would have more love to give than someone who had never known suffering. She believed that you don't have to give birth to a child to be a mother to them. The words hung in the air between them. Amara's eyes filled with fresh tears, but these were different from the ones she had cried on that platform. These tears carried something else. Hope, perhaps. Or fear. Or maybe both. Your children, she said carefully, do they want a new mother? Kofi's laugh was harsh. No. They are going to hate this. They are going to hate you, at least at first. Naledi especially. She's protected her siblings fiercely since Ade died, and she'll see you as a threat. Then why are you doing this? Because I promised my wife. Because my children are drowning and I don't know how to save them. And because when I saw you standing there, being sold by the people who should have protected you, I saw the same look in your eyes that I see in my children's eyes every day. The look of someone who is barely surviving. Amara absorbed this, her fingers clutching Kofi's jacket that was still wrapped around her shoulders. It smelled expensive, like cedar and something else she couldn't name. Like a life so far removed from her own it might as well be on another planet. What exactly do you want from me? She asked. Honestly. I don't know yet. Maybe just to live in my house, to be present with the children, to show them that someone can be kind without wanting anything in return. Maybe just to heal yourself while helping them heal. No expectations. No pressure. Just a chance. The vehicles turned off the main road onto a private driveway lined with lights. In the distance, Amara could see an enormous house, lit up like something from a movie. Her heart began to race. And if it doesn't work, she whispered. If your children truly hate me. If I can't help them. Kofi's expression softened. Then you'll still have a home. A safe place. I'm not your parents, Amara. I won't throw you away if you don't meet my expectations. The door will never be locked. You can leave whenever you want. But I'm asking you to try. Will you? Before Amara could answer, the vehicles pulled up to the main entrance, and the front door burst open. 4 children came running out, but they stopped short when they saw their father wasn't alone. The oldest girl, who had to be Naledi, folded her arms across her chest, her face a mask of anger and betrayal. The boy, Kwame, just looked confused. The twins held each other's hands, staring at Amara with wide, cautious eyes. "Who is she?" Naledi demanded, her voice sharp. Kofi stepped out of the vehicle and turned to help Amara out. She stood there, feeling every eye on her, wearing a torn dress with a borrowed jacket, knowing she looked exactly like what she was. An outsider. An intruder in their grief. "Everyone, this is Amara," Kofi said, his hand steady on her shoulder. "And I need you to listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you." The tension was thick enough to cut, and Amara realized that walking away from being sold might have been the easy part. Living in this house, with these wounded children and their impossible expectations, might prove to be the real test of her survival. The grand foyer of the Mensa estate was decorated with African art and family photographs that told the story of happier times. Amara stood frozen just inside the doorway, acutely aware of the mud on her feet staining the pristine marble floors. The children formed a wall of resistance in front of her, their father's words about to reshape all their worlds. "I won't accept this," Naledi said before Kofi could begin explaining. At 16, she had her mother's features but her father's stubborn jaw. "Whatever you're planning, the answer is no." Kofi's voice remained calm. "Naledi, you haven't heard what I have to say." "I don't need to. You brought a stranger into our home, into Momo's home, on the anniversary of her death. What else is there to understand?" Kwame, the 14-year-old, moved closer to his older sister, a united front. The 10-year-old twins, Omar and Abina, looked between their father and their siblings, uncertain where their loyalty should lie. "Your mother made me promise her something," Kofi began, his voice carrying the weight of years of grief. "The day she died, she asked me to find someone who had been broken by life and give them a chance. She said that person would help us all heal." "We don't need healing," Naledi spat. "We need you to stop trying to replace her." Amara found her voice, surprising herself. "I'm not here to replace anyone." Four pairs of eyes turned to her, ranging from hostile to curious. "Then why are you here?" Kwame asked, his voice rough, like he didn't use it much anymore. Amara glanced at Kofi, who nodded encouragingly. She took a breath and decided on honesty, the only currency she had left. "A few hours ago, I was standing on a platform while my parents sold me to the highest bidder. Your father stopped it. He paid for my freedom and brought me here. I don't know much more than that. I don't know what he wants from me, and I certainly don't know how to be what any of you need. But I understand what it feels like to be lost." The words hung in the air. Omar, one of the twins, tilted her head. "Your parents sold you? Like in the old stories?" "Yes," Amara said softly. "Like in the old stories. Because I couldn't have children. Because I was considered worthless." Something flickered in Naledi's eyes, not quite sympathy but perhaps a recognition of shared pain. "And now what?" "You're supposed to live here. Be our new mother." "I think," Amara said carefully, "I'm just supposed to live here. The rest, we figure out as we go." "No." Naledi's voice was sharp again. "I've been taking care of my brothers and sisters for 3 years. We don't need you. Tell her, Baba. Tell her we're fine." Kofi's expression grew pained. "You're not fine, Naledi. None of us are. I found you last week sitting on your mother's grave at midnight. Kwame hasn't eaten a full meal in 2 months. The twins still wake up crying for Ada every night. We are not fine. So you bought a solution?" Naledi's voice cracked. "You think you can pay for everything, fix everything with money. I think I made a promise to your mother, and I'm trying to keep it. That's all I know how to do anymore." The silence that followed was broken by Abina, the quieter of the twins, who stepped forward and looked up at Amara. Are you going to sleep in Momo's room? No, Kofi answered quickly. Amara will have her own space. Your mother's room stays as it is. Can she eat dinner with us? Oma asked. We have so much food, and Mrs. Okoye made jollof rice today. The simple question from a child broke some of the tension. Kofi looked at Amara. Are you hungry? Amara realized she hadn't eaten since the morning, before her world had fallen apart. Yes. Then we eat, Kofi decided. Together. And tomorrow we start figuring out what this arrangement means. But tonight, we just eat. Naledi made a disgusted sound and stormed up the grand staircase. Kwame hesitated, then followed his sister, leaving the twins with their father and Amara. She'll come around, Oma said with a confidence that suggested she had seen her sister's anger before. Or she won't, Abina added pragmatically. She's been mad for a long time. Mrs. Okoye, the elderly housekeeper who had clearly been listening from the kitchen, emerged with her usual efficiency. Dinner is ready. Should I set an extra place? Yes, Kofi said. And Mrs. Okoye, this is Amara. She'll be staying with us. The housekeeper's eyes were sharp and assessing, but she nodded. Welcome, child. Come, you'll want to wash up first. Amara followed Mrs. Okoye through the enormous house, past rooms filled with books and art, past windows that overlooked gardens lit by subtle ground lights. They climbed a different staircase than the one Naledi had used and arrived at a bedroom that was larger than the entire house Amara had grown up in. This will be your room, Mrs. Okoye said, opening the door. Bathroom is through there. I'll bring you some clothes that should fit. You're about the same size as the master's late wife. Amara entered the room, feeling like an imposter. Everything was elegant and carefully chosen, from the cream-colored bedding to the fresh flowers on the dresser. Mrs. Okoye, she said quickly, I don't understand any of this. Why would Mr. Mensah do this? The older woman studied her for a long moment. The master loved his wife more than anything in this world. When she died, it broke something in him. He's been trying to fix it ever since, but grief doesn't work that way. Maybe he thinks saving you will somehow honor her memory. Maybe he's just desperate to keep a promise. Either way, you're here now. And if I fail? If I can't help them? Mrs. Okoye's expression softened slightly. Then you fail. But at least you're failing in comfort rather than being sold in a village square. Now wash up. The children are difficult, but they are not cruel. Not really. They are just hurt. After Mrs. Okoye left, Amara stood in the middle of the room, trying to process the surreal shift her life had taken. This morning she had been property. Now she was a guest in a billionaire's mansion, expected to somehow help heal a family she didn't know. She walked to the window and looked out over the estate grounds. Somewhere in this house, 4 children were grieving a mother they would never get back. And somehow, she was supposed to be part of their healing, when she couldn't even heal herself. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called, expecting Mrs. Okoye with clothes. Instead, Kwame entered, his thin frame filling the doorway. He looked at her with eyes that seemed older than his 14 years. I wanted to say I'm sorry, he said. About what happened to you? With your parents. That's terrible. Amara was surprised by his directness. Thank you. My sister doesn't mean to be so angry, he continued. She's just scared. We all are. Every time Baba tries to fix things, it feels like he's trying to erase Mama. Like if he fills the house with enough things and enough people, we'll forget her. I could never make anyone forget their mother, Amara said. That's not why I'm here. Then why are you here? Really? Amara considered the question carefully. I think your father and I made a deal without realizing it. He gave me freedom from a terrible situation. And maybe, In return, I'm supposed to remind him and all of you that life is still worth living. Even when it's hard. Even when it hurts. Kwame nodded slowly. Mama used to say that. That pain means you're alive, and being alive is a gift. She sounds like she was wise. She was everything. Kwame's voice broke. And now she's nothing. Just pictures and memories and this house that feels like a museum to someone who isn't here anymore. Before Amara could respond, Kwame left as quickly as he had come, leaving her alone with the weight of what she had gotten herself into. Dinner was an awkward affair. Naledi refused to come down, so Kofi had a tray sent to her room. Kwame ate mechanically, not tasting anything. The twins chattered nervously, filling the silence with stories about school and friends, desperate to make things feel normal. Amara ate quietly, aware that every movement was being watched. The jollof rice was delicious, but it stuck in her throat. She was eating food prepared by a personal chef, sitting at a table that probably cost more than her family's annual income, surrounded by people who had no reason to trust her. Amara, Kofi said, breaking into her thoughts, tomorrow I want you to meet with Dr. Adeyemi. She's a therapist who has been working with the children. I think it would be good for her to talk with you as well, help you adjust to all of this. A therapist. Amara repeated. She had never met a therapist. In her village, mental health was something people whispered about, never addressed openly. Yes. There's no shame in it. We all see her. Even me. Oma looked up from her plate. Dr. Adeyemi is nice. She has toys in her office and she never makes you talk about things if you don't want to. But she tricks you, Abina added. She asks you about games and then suddenly you're talking about feelings and you didn't even notice. Despite everything, Amara smiled. She sounds clever. She is, Kofi agreed. And she's helped us a lot. Not enough, maybe, but some. After dinner, Mrs. Okoye showed Amara how to use the various controls in her room, the lights, the temperature, the television she had never had access to before. It all felt overwhelming. Get some rest, the housekeeper advised. Tomorrow will be a long day. But Amara couldn't sleep. She lay in the comfortable bed, staring at the ceiling, and wondered what her parents were doing with the money they had received for her. Were they celebrating? Relieved? Or did her mother feel even a small pound of regret? Around midnight, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Then crying, soft and muffled. The twins, having nightmares. Without thinking, Amara left her room and followed the sound. She found herself outside the twins' bedroom door, which was slightly ajar. Inside, she could see Oma sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face, while Abina tried to comfort her. I want Mama, Oma sobbed. I want her to sing to us. I know, Abina whispered, even though her own cheeks were wet. But she can't. She can't ever again. Amara's heart clenched. She knew she should walk away, that this wasn't her place, that she had no right to intrude on their grief. But something Eda had told Kofi echoed in her mind, someone who has been broken can help others heal. She knocked softly. The twins looked up, startled. I'm sorry, Amara said. I heard crying and I just wanted to make sure you were okay. We're fine, Abina said automatically, the way people do when they're anything but fine. Amara entered the room slowly, sitting on the edge of Oma's bed. When I was a little girl, younger than you, I used to have terrible nightmares. And my grandmother, before she died, she taught me something that helped. What? Amma asked, hiccuping through her tears. She taught me to find one good thing from the day, no matter how bad the day was, and hold on to it like a treasure. Just one good thing. And then the nightmares couldn't take everything. The twins looked at each other, communicating in that silent way that twins do. What was your good thing today? Abina asked. Amara thought about it. Meeting you too. Being brave enough to smile at me at dinner, even though you didn't know me. That was my good thing. Mine was the jollof rice, Oma said. Mrs. Okoye makes the best jollof rice in the world. Mine was that Baba came home early, Abina added. He never comes home early. They sat there for a while, the three of them, finding good things in a day that had been hard for everyone. Slowly, the twins' breathing evened out, and their eyes grew heavy. Will you be here tomorrow? Oma asked sleepily. Yes, Amara promised. I'll be here. Good, Oma murmured. Because maybe you can tell us more about your grandmother's tricks for nightmares. Amara stayed until they fell asleep, then crept back to her room. As she passed one of the hallway windows, she saw Kofi standing in the garden below, looking up at the stars. He looked so alone, this powerful man who could buy anything except the one thing he truly wanted. She understood, then, what Ada had meant. This family wasn't looking for someone to replace their mother. They were looking for someone who understood that broken things could still be useful. That empty spaces could be filled with something different, not better or worse, just different. And maybe, just maybe, Amara was exactly different enough to help. Dr. Adeyemi's office was in a private wing of the estate, a space Kofi had created specifically for the family's therapy sessions. It was painted in calming blues and filled with comfortable chairs, art supplies, and books. The therapist herself was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an air of patient authority. So, Amara, she began, after they had settled into chairs, Kofi tells me you've had quite a journey to get here. Amara looked down at her hands. That's one way to describe it. How would you describe it? Like falling off a cliff and landing somewhere completely impossible. Dr. Adeyemi smiled. That's a good description. Very honest. Tell me, are you angry at your parents? The question caught Amara off guard. I don't know. Should I be? There's no should in feelings. They just are. But in my experience, people who have been betrayed by those who are supposed to love them often carry anger, whether they acknowledge it or not. Amara thought about this. I think I'm more angry at myself. For not being enough. For failing at the one thing that mattered. Having children. Yes. In my culture, a woman who can't have children is considered cursed. Worthless. My husband returned me like defective merchandise. And my parents, they just wanted to cut their losses. Dr. Adeyemi leaned forward. And do you believe you're worthless? I don't know what I believe anymore. A day ago, I would have said yes. But then a stranger paid a fortune for my freedom and brought me to this beautiful house and asked me to help his children heal. So maybe I'm confused about my worth. That's actually progress, the therapist said. Confusion means you're questioning old beliefs. That's where change begins. They talked for over an hour about Amara's past, her marriage, her parents, her dreams that had died long before she stood on that platform. Dr. Adeyemi didn't judge or offer easy solutions. She just listened and asked questions that made Amara think about herself in new ways. Now, let's talk about the children, Dr. Adeyemi said. What do you think they need from you? I don't know. I'm not their mother. I can never be their mother. No, you can't. And they don't need you to be. Ada was irreplaceable. But that doesn't mean there isn't room for you in this family. Just as a different kind of presence. What kind of presence? That's what you all need to figure out together. But I'll tell you what I told Kofi when he first mentioned his plan to me. These children need someone who won't try to fix them or replace what they lost. They need someone who can sit with them in their pain without trying to make it go away. Can you do that? Amara thought about sitting with the twins the night before, not trying to stop their grief but just being there alongside it. I think so. I've had plenty of practice sitting with pain. Dr. Adeyemi nodded approvingly. That's exactly what I thought when Kofi told me about you. You have something precious, the wisdom that comes from surviving. Don't underestimate that. After the session, Amara walked through the estate grounds, trying to clear her head. The gardens were extensive, with paths that wound between flowering bushes and tall trees. She found herself at a small structure in the back, a kind of gazebo overlooking a pond. This was Mama's favorite spot. Amara turned to find Naledi standing behind her, no longer looking quite so hostile, just tired. I'm sorry, Amara said quickly. I didn't know. It's fine. It's not like you're not allowed to be here. Naledi sat on one of the benches. After a moment, Amara sat too, keeping a respectful distance. They sat in silence for a while, watching ducks glide across the pond surface. The twins like you, Naledi finally said. It wasn't exactly an accusation, but it wasn't friendly either. They're easy to like. They're vulnerable. They're 10 years old and they lost their mother. They'll attach to anyone who shows them kindness. Is that such a bad thing? Naledi turned to look at her directly. It is if that person leaves. It is if they get hurt again. They've been hurt enough. I'm not planning to leave, Amara said. Everyone says that. Then life happens and plans change and people leave. It's what people do. Amara heard the pain beneath the anger. You're talking about your father. He was away on business when Mama got sick. Away closing some important deal. By the time he got back, she was in the hospital. He missed her final days because he was in another country making money we didn't need. And you blame him. Wouldn't you? Amara considered this. I don't know. I think people make choices that seem right at the time, and then they have to live with the consequences. Your father was trying to provide for his family. He couldn't have known. He should have known. She was sick for weeks before it got critical. The doctors told him to come home. But there was always one more meeting, one more deal. And then it was too late. Naledi's voice broke on the last word, and Amara saw the 16-year-old girl beneath the armor of anger. Without thinking, she reached out and took Naledi's hand. The girl didn't pull away. I can't imagine how hard that must have been, Amara said softly. To lose your mother and feel like you lost your father too, in a different way. He's trying now, Naledi admitted. Coming home early, counseling trips, hiring therapists. But it feels like too little, too late. And now he's brought you here, and I don't understand why. We were managing. I was taking care of everyone. You're 16, Amara said gently. You shouldn't have to take care of everyone. You should be able to be a child sometimes. I can't be a child. Someone has to be the adult. Your father is the adult. My father is drowning in his own guilt and grief. He just hides it better than the rest of us. Amara couldn't argue with that. She had seen it in Kofi's eyes, the weight he carried. Naledi, I want you to understand something. I'm not here to take your place or continue your mother's place. I don't even know what my place is yet. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we can figure it out together. Naledi wiped her eyes roughly. You seem too normal to be here. Baba usually brings home people who are impressive, important. You're just regular. I think that's exactly why I'm here. Your mother wanted someone regular. Someone broken. Someone who understood loss. Did you lose someone too? Amara nodded. I lost my husband when he sent me away. I lost my parents when they sold me. I lost the future I thought I would have. And I lost my sense of worth when I couldn't give my husband children. So yes, I understand loss. Naledi was quiet for a long time. I heard what you told the twins last night. About finding one good thing from each day. You were listening. I'm always listening. I have to know what's happening in this house, who's okay and who's not. She paused. It was a nice thing to tell them. They slept better than they have in weeks. I'm glad. Don't make me like you, Naledi said suddenly, standing up. It's easier if I don't like you. If you're just some stranger Baba brought home. Why is it easier? Because then it won't hurt when you leave. Before Amara could respond, Naledi walked away, her shoulders stiff with the effort of holding herself together. Amara watched her go, understanding more than the girl probably realized. Naledi had loved and lost, and now she was terrified to love again. It was a feeling Amara knew intimately. That afternoon, Amara found Kwame in the estate's library, surrounded by books but not reading any of them. He looked up when she entered, then looked away quickly. Am I disturbing you? Amara asked. No. I'm not really doing anything anyway. Amara walked along the shelves, running her fingers over the spines of books. This is an incredible collection. Mama loved books. She used to read to us every night. His voice was hollow. Now nobody reads to the twins anymore. Baba tries sometimes, but he falls asleep. He's always so tired. What were you reading before? Amara asked. Before your mother died. Kwame's eyes flickered with something, a brief spark of life. Adventure stories. Fantasy novels. Stories where people went on quests and found magic and saved the world. Do you still like those stories? I don't know. They seem stupid now. Nothing in those books prepares you for real life. For watching your mother waste away. For standing at her funeral and knowing she's never coming back. He stood abruptly, his voice rising. What's the point of stories about magic and heroes when real life is just pain and loss and emptiness? Amara let his anger fill the space, not trying to diminish it or fix it. When he finally stopped, breathing hard, she spoke quietly. I think stories matter most when real life is hard. They remind us that pain doesn't last forever, that people can survive terrible things and still find meaning. They are not escapes from reality. They are maps for navigating it. Kwame stared at her. You sound like Mama. Then your Mama was wise. He sank back into his chair, suddenly looking exhausted. I'm tired all the time. Dr. Adeyemi says it's depression. She wants me to take medication, but I don't want to. Feeling nothing is better than feeling everything. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, you're already feeling everything. You're just trying to pretend you're not. Kwame's jaw clenched. What do you know about it? Your parents sold you, but at least they're alive. At least you could see them again if you wanted to. I can never see my mother again. Never hear her voice. Never feel her hug me. She's just gone. You're right, Amara said. I don't know what that's like. Losing someone to death is different from losing them to cruelty. But I do know what it's like to feel like there's no point in going on. And I know that the only reason I'm still here is because I found small things to hold on to. Small reasons to take the next breath. Like what? Like sunset. Like rain. Like the smell of bread baking. Tiny things that reminded me the world still had beauty in it, even when everything felt ugly. Kwame was silent for a long moment. Then, so quietly she almost didn't hear him, Mama used to make this sound when she laughed. Like bells ringing. I'm starting to forget what it sounded like. That terrifies me more than anything. Amara's heart broke for him. Do you have videos? Recordings? Hours of them. Baba recorded everything. But I can't watch them. It hurts too much. Then don't. Not yet. But know they're there, waiting for when you're ready. Your mother's laugh isn't gone, Kwame. It's just waiting. He nodded, blinking back tears. Why are you being nice to us? You don't owe us anything. Maybe I'm being nice to you because people weren't nice to me, and I remember how much that hurt. Maybe I'm being nice because your father gave me a chance when no one else would. Or maybe I'm just nice because that's who I want to be. Does the reason matter? I guess not. He stood again, this time less agitated. I should go. I have homework I've been ignoring. Kwame, Amara called as he reached the door. For what it's worth, I think your mother would be proud of you for still being here, still trying, even when it's hard. He didn't respond, but she saw his shoulders relax slightly before he left. That evening, Kofi asked Amara to join him in his study. The room was lined with business awards and photographs from various company events. But on his desk was a single-frame picture of Ada, smiling at the camera with such joy it was almost painful to look at. "How was your day?" he asked, pouring them both tea. "Complicated," Amara admitted. "Your children are remarkable, but they are so hurt." "I know. I did that to them. I wasn't there when they needed me most, and now I'm trying to make up for it, but I don't know if I can." Naledi told me. "About you being away when Ede got sick." Kofi's hand tightened around his teacup. "The worst decision of my life. I thought I had more time. The doctor said it was serious but manageable. I thought I could finish the deal and be back before things got critical. I was wrong. You couldn't have known. I should have known. Ada," she called me. She asked me to come home. And I said, soon, just a few more days. Those few days cost me everything. By the time I got back, she was unconscious. She died without me ever getting to say goodbye, without me telling her one last time how much I loved her. His voice cracked, and Amara saw tears in his eyes. This powerful billionaire, who commanded boardrooms and made decisions that affected thousands, was just a man who had lost his wife and couldn't forgive himself. "Is that why you saved me?" Amara asked gently. "To somehow make up for not saving her." Kofi looked at her directly. "Maybe. I don't know. When I saw you on that platform, I saw a chance to do something right. To save someone. To honor Ada's wish that I find someone who needed help and give them a chance. Maybe I'm selfish, using you to ease my guilt. But I meant what I said. You have a home here, regardless of how things work out with the children." "They are starting to open up," Amara said. "Slowly. But they are so afraid of losing someone else. Can you blame them?" "No. I'm afraid too. What if I fail them? What if I make things worse?" Kofi smiled sadly. "Then you'll be human, like the rest of us." Ada used to say that perfection wasn't the goal. Trying was the goal. Showing up was the goal. Being present even when it's hard. That's all any of us can do. They talked late into the night about Ada, about the children, about the future that seemed so uncertain. And for the first time since arriving at the estate, Amara felt like maybe she wasn't completely out of place. Maybe there was a reason she was here, even if she didn't fully understand it yet. When she finally returned to her room, she found a note slipped under her door. It was in childish handwriting, probably from one of the twins. "Thank you for helping us find good things. We didn't have nightmares tonight." Amara held the note to her chest and let herself cry. Not tears of sadness, but tears of something else. Hope, maybe. Or purpose. Or the beginning of healing that she hadn't known she needed. 3 weeks passed, and life at the Mensa estate began to develop a rhythm. Amara woke early each morning and had breakfast with whoever came down first, usually the twins. She helped them with homework, listened to their stories about school, and taught them her grandmother's old tricks for everything from hiccups to bad moods. Kwame remained distant but less hostile. He started eating more, slowly gaining back some of the weight he had lost. Sometimes Amara would find him in the library, and they would sit in comfortable silence, both reading, both healing in their own ways. Naledi was the hardest. She maintained her walls, keeping Amara at arm's length even as she watched her interactions with her siblings. But Amara noticed small changes. Naledi stopped glaring when Amara entered the room. She answered when spoken to, though her responses were usually brief. And once, Amara caught her almost smiling at something Oma said about Amara's terrible cooking attempt. Kofi worked less, came home earlier, and made efforts to have dinner with the family every night. The meals were still sometimes awkward, but they were meals together. That counted for something. But Amara was struggling with her own demands. At night, alone in her room, she wondered about her parents. Whether they missed her at all. Whether her former husband had replaced her yet. Whether she truly belonged in this strange new life or if she was just playing a role that would eventually be exposed as fake. Dr. Adeyemi helped. Their weekly sessions gave Amara space to process everything. The therapist never pushed, but she asked questions that made Amara examine her beliefs about herself, her worth, her future. "You're doing better than you think," Dr. Adeyemi said during one session. "The children trust you more each day. That's significant. But am I actually helping them? Or am I just a distraction? Does it have to be one or the other? Maybe you're both. A helpful distraction. Someone new who brings different energy into a house that's been stuck in grief. Naledi still doesn't trust me. Naledi doesn't trust anyone right now, including herself. But she watches you. I've noticed. She's testing you, waiting to see if you leave or let them down. When you don't, when you keep showing up, that matters." One afternoon, Amara was in the garden with the twins when Naledi appeared, her face stormy. "I need to talk to you," she said to Amara. Amma and Abina exchanged glances and quietly excused themselves, leaving Amara alone with the angry teenager. "What's wrong?" Amara asked. "There's a school event next week. A mother-daughter dinner. I'm not going." "Why not?" "Because I don't have a mother." Naledi's voice was sharp. "And I'm not taking you, if that's what Baba was thinking." Amara kept her voice calm. "I wouldn't expect you to. Your mother was your mother. I'm not trying to replace her." "Then what are you trying to do? Why are you still here?" "Because your father asked me to stay. Because your siblings seem to like having me around. Because I have nowhere else to go." Amara paused. "And because I like being here, even when it's hard. This is my mother's house. Our garden. Our children. You're living in a space that belongs to someone else." "You're right," Amara said quietly. "I am. And I think about that every day. But your mother wanted this, Naledi. She asked your father to find someone like me. I don't know why, but she did. Maybe instead of fighting it, you could try to understand why. Because she was dying and wasn't thinking clearly. Or because she loved you all so much that she wanted to make sure you would have someone to help you through the grief. Someone who understood pain. Someone who wouldn't try to be her but would just be present." Naledi's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to need anyone else. I don't want to care about you and then lose you too." There it was. The truth beneath the anger. Amara stood and moved closer. "I can't promise you I never leave. Life is unpredictable. But I can promise that if I do leave, it won't be because you want enough or because I didn't care. It will be because circumstances changed. And I can promise that right now, in this moment, I'm here and I'm not planning to go anywhere. Everyone says that. I know. And everyone who said it to you before broke that promise. Your mother didn't want to leave, but she had no choice. Your father wasn't there when you needed him, and that broke something in you. I get it. But Naledi, if you never trust anyone again, you'll be safe, but you'll also be alone. Is that really what you want?" Naledi wiped her eyes angrily. "I hate that you make sense. I hate that you're in pain. They stood there in the garden, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the grass. Finally, Naledi spoke again, her voice small. The mother-daughter dinner, it's this Friday. All my friends will be there with their mothers. I'll be the only one alone. You won't be alone. You could skip it, or you could go and prove that you're strong enough to face it. Will you tell Baba? He'll just feel guilty and try to fix it somehow. Not if you don't want me to. Naledi nodded slowly. Can I ask you something? Do you wish you could have children? Like, do you think about it and feel sad? Amara considered the question carefully. I used to. It consumed me. Every month that went by without getting pregnant, I felt like more of a failure. But now, I don't know. Maybe I wasn't meant to give birth to children. Maybe I was meant to help raise children who already existed. Children who needed someone who understood what it felt like to be rejected and broken. We are not broken, Naledi said defensively. Neither am I. Not anymore. We are healing. There's a difference. Naledi looked at her for a long moment. If I asked you to come to that dinner with me, would you? Amara's heart clenched. Are you asking? I don't know. Maybe. I don't want to go alone. And I don't want to explain to everyone why I don't have a mother. But if I brought you, it wouldn't be like you're replacing her. It would just be like I brought someone who cares. Is that okay? Naledi, I would be honored to go with you. The girl nodded quickly, blinking back fresh tears. Don't make a big deal out of this. And don't tell the others. They'll just make it weird. I promise. Naledi started to walk away, then turned back. Thank you. For not leaving yet. Thank you for giving me a chance. After Naledi left, Amara sat in the garden for a long time, overwhelmed by what had just happened. Naledi, the most resistant, the most hurt, had just asked her to the mother-daughter dinner. It felt like a breakthrough, fragile and precious. That evening, Kofi found Amara in the library, staring at a book without reading it. You seem deep in thought, he said. Amara smiled. Naledi asked me to go to a school event with her. A mother-daughter dinner. Kofi's expression softened with surprise and something else. Relief, maybe. Or hope. That's significant. She hasn't attended any of those events since Ade died. I know. I'm terrified I'll somehow mess it up. You won't. Just be yourself. That's all any of them need. They sat together in comfortable silence for a while before Kofi spoke again. Ada would have liked you. She would have appreciated how you listen without trying to fix everything. How you're patient with the children's pain. I miss her, and I never even knew her. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. We all miss her. This whole house misses her. But maybe, with you here, we are learning how to miss her without drowning in it. Is that why you really brought me here? To help you all learn how to grieve. Kofi considered this. I think I brought you here because Ada asked me to. But you've become more than just keeping a promise. You've become part of this family, Amara. In your own way. And I hope you're starting to feel that. I am. It terrifies me. Good. Fear means you care. And caring means you're alive. Before viewers forget, I want to ask you all watching this, where are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comments below. I love knowing that this story is reaching people all over the world, connecting us through these shared experiences of family, loss, and healing. And if you're enjoying this journey with Amara and the Mensah family, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Share this video with someone who might need to hear this story. Your support helps us bring more meaningful stories like this to you. Now, let me ask you something. If you were in Amara's position, would you have gone with Kofi that night, or would you have refused? Would you have taken the chance on this strange new life, or stayed with the devil you knew? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to hear your perspectives. The mother-daughter dinner arrived too quickly. Amara spent hours trying to decide what to wear, finally settling on a simple dress that Mrs. Okoye had helped her pick out. It was elegant but not flashy, respectful but not trying too hard. Naledi appeared at her door, wearing a dress that made her look older than 16. Her makeup was careful, her hair styled, but her eyes betrayed her nervousness. You look beautiful, Amara said honestly. So do you. Naledi shifted uncomfortably. I told my friends you were my father's friend. Not a replacement mother or anything. Just someone who's staying with us. That's fine. However you want to introduce me. They drove to the school in one of the family's cars, Naledi's anxiety filling the space between them. When they arrived, Amara could see other mothers and daughters entering together, laughing and chatting easily. We can leave if you want, Amara said. No one would blame you. No. I'm not running away anymore. Naledi took a deep breath. Let's go. The dinner was held in the school's decorated gymnasium. Tables were set with nice linens, and there was a buffet along one wall. Naledi's friends surrounded her immediately, curious about Amara. This is Amara, Naledi said, her voice steady. She's been staying with us. She's helping our family through some things. Amara saw the understanding in some of the girls' eyes. They knew Naledi's mother had died. They were just glad their friend had someone with her tonight. The evening progressed with various activities, games, and speeches. Amara participated when appropriate but mostly let Naledi take the lead, following her cues. She noticed how the other mothers looked at her with curiosity and sometimes pity, probably assuming she was some kind of hired companion. During one activity where mothers and daughters had to answer questions about each other, Naledi panicked. We can't do this, she whispered. We don't know each other well enough. Then we guess, Amara whispered back. And we laugh when we're wrong. It's okay not to be perfect. They got almost every question wrong, but instead of being embarrassing, it became funny. Naledi laughed, really laughed, for the first time since Amara had met her. And that laugh, bright and genuine, was worth everything. Near the end of the evening, there was a moment for mothers to say something to their daughters. Amara's heart raced when it was their turn. She wasn't Naledi's mother. She had no right to speak. But Naledi looked at her expectantly, and Amara realized the girl wanted to hear something. Needed to hear something. Amara took a breath. Naledi, I'm not your mother, and I would never try to be. But I want you to know that in the short time I've known you, I've seen your strength, your love for your family, and your courage in facing pain that would crush most people. Your mother raised an incredible daughter. And wherever she is, I know she's proud of you. Naledi's eyes filled with tears, and for the first time, she didn't try to hide them. She reached across the table and took Amara's hand. Thank you, she whispered. For coming. For staying. For everything. On the drive home, Naledi was quieter but less burdened. That wasn't as terrible as I thought it would be. No. No. It was actually kind of nice. Having someone there. Not Mama, but someone who cared enough to show up. I'll always show up, Naledi. When you need me. When you don't need me. I'll be there. Don't make promises you can't keep. I'm not. I'm making a promise I intend to keep. When they arrived home, the rest of the family was waiting up. Kofi, Kwame, and the twins were all in the living room, clearly having been anxious about how the evening would go. How was it? Oma asked immediately. Naledi smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. It was good. Really good. Kofi looked at Amara with gratitude shining in his eyes. She had passed some invisible test, crossed some invisible threshold. Whatever she had been when she first arrived, she was something different now. Something more solid. More real. That night, as Amara prepared for bed, there was a knock on her door. She opened it to find all 4 children standing there. "We wanted to say goodnight," Abina said. "Together. All of you." They nodded and filed into her room. The twins sat on her bed, Kwame leaned against the wall, and Naledi stood in the doorway, still maintaining some distance but present nonetheless. "We've been talking," Kwame said, glancing at his sisters. "And we wanted you to know that we understand why Baba brought you here. We get it now." "Mama was smart," Oma added. "She knew we would need someone like you. Someone who understands sad," Abine continued. "But who also remembers how to find happy." Naledi cleared her throat. "What they're trying to say is that you're not just staying here anymore. You're part of this family. Not as a replacement for Mama, but as yourself. As Amara. And that's okay. That's good, actually." Amara felt tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. You have no idea how much that means to me." "We kind of do," Kwame said. "Because you made us feel like we mattered when we thought nothing mattered anymore." They stayed for a while, all 5 of them, talking about everything and nothing. When they finally left, Amara felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt like she belonged somewhere. Like she had a purpose beyond just existing. 6 months later, the Mensa estate was transformed. Not in its physical appearance, but in its energy. The house that had felt like a museum to grief now felt like a home again. Laughter echoed through the hallways. Meals were lively affairs with conversation and even arguments, the healthy kind that families have. Amara had found her place. She wasn't the children's mother, but she was something equally important. She was their friend, their confidant, their proof that life could be rebuilt after devastation. She helped with homework, listened to teenage drama, refereed twin squabbles, and provided a calm presence when emotions ran high. Naledi had started smiling again, really smiling. She was preparing for university applications and had stopped carrying the weight of the entire family on her shoulders. She had learned to be a teenager again, with Amara's gentle encouragement. Kwame had gained weight and started writing stories, inspired by their conversations in the library. He talked about wanting to be an author someday, to tell stories that helped people navigate pain. Dr. Adeyemi had pronounced him much improved, though still in therapy, still healing, but no longer drowning. The twins had fewer nightmares. They still missed their mother, still talked about her often, but they had learned to hold their grief alongside their joy. They had learned that remembering someone didn't mean being sad all the time. And Kofi had changed too. He had learned to forgive himself, slowly, with Dr. Adeyemi's help and Amara's patient presence. He still worked hard, but he had found balance. He was present with his children in ways he hadn't been before Ada's death. And he had found something unexpected, a friendship with Amara that was based on mutual respect and shared purpose. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Kofi made an announcement. "I've been thinking," he said, looking around the table at his children and Amara. "About names. About what we call each other. About what this family is." Everyone stopped eating, sensing something important. "Amara, you came into our lives at a time when we were all broken. You didn't fix us because we didn't need fixing. But you helped us learn how to live again. And in the process, you became family. Not a replacement for Ada. Never that. But family nonetheless." He paused, emotion thick in his voice. "The children and I have discussed this, and we want to know how you feel about us making it official. About you legally becoming part of this family. Not through marriage," he added quickly, seeing Amora's surprised expression. "But through adoption. I want to adopt you as my family member, give you the Mensa name if you want it, make you legally tied to us so that you never have to fear being sent away or being alone again. Amara stared at him, speechless. The children were all watching her expectantly. You don't have to answer now, Naledi said. But we wanted you to know that we consider you family. Whatever you decide. It comes with benefits, Kwame added with a small smile. Like being stuck with us forever. And sharing our inheritance, Oma said pragmatically. Boba said you'd get an equal share of everything. Because you're our family, Abina finished. And family shares. Amara felt tears streaming down her face. 6 months ago, she had been worthless in the eyes of everyone who was supposed to love her. She had been sold like property, treated as if her inability to bear children made her less than human. Now, she was being offered something beyond price. A family. A name. A belonging that couldn't be taken away. I don't need legal adoption, she said softly. I don't need inheritance or money or anything material. But if you're offering me a place in this family, a real place, then yes. 1,000 times yes. The table erupted in noise. The twins jumped up to hug her. Kwame grinned, actually grinned. Naledi wiped her eyes and nodded, her approval clear. And Kofi looked at her with something like peace in his expression. Welcome to the family, Amara Mensa, he said. Officially. They celebrated that night, all of them together, and Amara realized something profound. Her parents had sold her because they thought she was worthless. But they had been wrong. She wasn't worthless. She was priceless. And it had taken losing everything to find out where she truly belonged. Over the following weeks, the adoption paperwork was processed. Dr. Adeyemi called it one of the most beautiful therapeutic outcomes she had ever witnessed. Mrs. Okoye, who had watched the entire transformation, proclaimed it proved that God worked in mysterious ways. But there was one more thing Amara needed to do. One final piece of her past that needed addressing. With Kofi's support, she returned to her village. Not in secrecy or shame, but in one of the family vehicles, with confidence in her bearing and peace in her heart. Her parents' house looked smaller than she remembered. When her mother answered the door, her eyes widened in shock. Amara. Hello, Mama. Her father appeared behind her mother, and Amara saw the flash of fear in his eyes. They probably thought she had come for revenge or to demand something. I'm not here to cause problems, Amara said calmly. I'm here to tell you that I forgive you. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Amara, we were desperate. The debts, the shame. I know. I understand desperation. But I also understand that what you did was wrong. Selling me didn't solve your problems. It just added to mine. We heard you went with a billionaire, her father said, his tone defensive. So it worked out for you. It worked out because I chose to make it work. Because I found people who saw value in me that you couldn't see. But yes, it worked out. I have a family now. A real family. People who chose me not because of what I could give them, but because of who I am. Her mother reached out, but Amara stepped back. I forgive you, but I don't forget. You are my parents by blood, but you are not my family. That title belongs to people who earned it. I wanted you to know that I'm alive, I'm well, and I'm happy. And I wanted you to know that your daughter, the one you considered worthless, has found her worth. She turned to leave, feeling lighter than she had in years. Amara, her mother called out. I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Amara paused but didn't turn back. I hope you are, Mama. I hope you learned something from this. But whether you did or not, I'm free now. And that's what matters. She drove away from that village for the last time, leaving behind the girl who had been sold and taking with her the woman who had been found. When she returned to the Mensa estate, all 4 children were waiting at the entrance. They had known where she was going and had worried, but they had trusted her to handle it. How did it go? Naledi asked. It went exactly as it needed to, Amara replied. I said what I needed to say. And now that chapter is closed. That night, the family gathered in the living room, something they did now regularly. They would talk about their days, share stories, and sometimes, when the moment felt right, they would talk about Ada. Mama would have liked you, Kwame said to Amara. I think about that sometimes. How you two would have gotten along. I think she does like her, Oma said with the certainty of a child. I think she's watching and she's happy we're not sad all the time anymore. I think, Naledi said carefully, that Mama knew exactly what she was doing when she asked Baba to find someone like Amara. She knew we needed someone who had survived their own pain. Someone who could teach us how to survive ours. Amara looked at each of them, these children who had become her children, not through biology but through choice and love and shared healing. Your mother was a wise woman, she said. She gave your father a gift when she made him promise to find me. But she gave me a gift too. She gave me you. All of you. A reason to keep living. A place to belong. A family. Kofi raised his glass of juice, and everyone followed suit. To Ada, he said, who loved us enough to make sure we would be okay even after she was gone. To Mama, the children echoed. And to Amara, Naledi added, who was brave enough to say yes when life offered her a second chance. They drank together, a family forged not by blood or traditional means, but by something stronger. By choice. By healing. By love that grew in the spaces left by loss. Later, as Amara prepared for bed, she looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back at her was different from the one who had stood on that platform 6 months ago. This woman stood tall. This woman knew her worth. This woman had survived being sold and had found something priceless in the process. She thought about the title of her story, the one she sometimes imagined telling to others who felt worthless. Her parents sold her for being barren until a lonely billionaire with 4 children chose her. It sounded dramatic, almost unbelievable. But it was true. Every word of it. Her parents had sold her because they saw her barrenness as a curse, as worthlessness. But Kofi had chosen her specifically because she couldn't have biological children. Because that meant she could give all her mothering energy to children who desperately needed it. Because Ada had understood something profound, that the ability to give birth and the ability to nurture were completely different things. Amara had been rejected for being barren. But she had been chosen for the same reason. And in that choosing, she had found her purpose. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Amma stood in the doorway, clutching her favorite stuffed animal. Can I sleep here tonight? She asked. I had a bad dream about the day we met you, and I want to make sure you're still real. Amara smiled and opened her arms. Come here, sweetheart. Amma climbed into bed next to her, and within minutes, Abina appeared too, having sensed her twins' distress even from her own room. Then Kwame showed up, claiming he heard voices and wanted to make sure everyone was okay. Finally, Naledi appeared in the doorway, rolling her eyes at her siblings. I'm not sleeping in here, she announced. That would be ridiculous. But she sat on the edge of the bed anyway, and soon all 5 of them were talking quietly in the dim light, about everything and nothing, the way families do. Tell us about your grandmother again, Oma requested. The one who taught you about finding good things. So Amara told them stories about her grandmother, a woman who had loved her unconditionally, who had seen value in her that others missed. And as she spoke, she realized that she had become her grandmother in some way. She had become the person who saw value in others, who helped them find the good things even in dark times. Eventually, the children drifted off to sleep, all of them somehow squeezed onto and around Amara's bed. She should probably wake them and send them to their own rooms, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. This moment, This pile of children who had chosen to seek comfort from her was too precious to disturb. Kofi found them like that an hour later when he came to check on everyone. He stood in the doorway, his phone in hand, and Amara could see tears glistening in his eyes. "Ada," he whispered, so quietly Amara almost didn't hear, "you were right. You were so right." He took a photo, capturing the moment, then quietly closed the door and left them to their peace. In the morning, the children woke embarrassed to find themselves all crammed into Amara's room. They scattered quickly, making excuses about sleepwalking and accidents, but Amara saw the smiles they were trying to hide. They had needed that closeness, that reassurance that she was real and staying and theirs. Breakfast was its usual chaotic affair, with everyone talking over each other, debating everything from politics to whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Mrs. Okoye moved around them efficiently, refilling plates and shaking her head at their noise, but Amara caught the smile on the older woman's face. "I have an announcement," Naledi said suddenly, silencing the table. "I've been accepted to university. Early admission. I got the letter yesterday." The table erupted in celebration. Kofi jumped up to hug his daughter, pride radiating from every pore. The twins squealed and clapped. Kwame gave his sister a rare smile. "I'm so proud of you," Amara said, her voice thick with emotion. "Your mother would be bursting with pride." Naledi's eyes met hers. "I couldn't have done it without you. You helped me remember that it was okay to have dreams again. That wanting things for myself didn't mean I was abandoning everyone else." "When do you leave?" Amma asked, suddenly worried. "Not until August. I have the whole summer with you all. And I'll come home for holidays. Plus, it's only 2 hours away. You'll get sick of seeing me." "Never," Abina declared with the certainty of a 10-year-old. After breakfast, as Amara helped clear the table, Kofi pulled her aside. "I need to tell you something," he said, his expression serious. "I've been contacted by some media outlets. Apparently, word has spread about our unusual family situation. About how I found you and brought you here. They want to do interviews, write stories." Amara's heart sank. "And expose everything. Tell the world how my parents sold me. Only if you want them to." "I've told them all no. Your story is yours to tell or not tell. But I wanted you to know that people are interested. And if you ever wanted to share your experience, to help other women who feel worthless because they can't have children, you have a platform. Through me. Through this family." Amara thought about all the women in her village and villages like it who were being treated as less than human because their bodies didn't cooperate with cultural expectations. Women who were being divorced, abandoned, sold, just like she had been. "Maybe someday," she said slowly. "When I'm ready. When I've healed enough to help others heal. But not yet. Whenever you're ready, or if you're never ready, that's okay. This is your life, Amara. You get to decide how you live it." That afternoon, Amara found herself in Ada's favorite spot, the gazebo overlooking the pond. She came here often now, feeling close to the woman she had never met but who had changed her life so profoundly. "Thank you," she whispered to Ada's memory. "For seeing something in me that I couldn't see in myself. For making Kofi promise to find someone broken, because you knew that broken people understand healing better than anyone. For giving me this family." The wind rustled through the trees, and Amara chose to believe it was Ada's way of responding. Footsteps behind her announced Kofi's arrival. He sat beside her, looking out at the pond just as his late wife must have done countless times. "Do you know what Ada's last words to me were?" he asked. "Besides making me promise to find someone like you." Amara shook her head. She said, "Don't grieve forever. Don't let the children forget how to be happy. Find a way to live again, not just exist." I didn't understand what she meant at the time. I thought living without her was impossible. And now, Now I realize she wasn't asking me to forget her or stop loving her. She was asking me to make space for new kinds of love. For new family members. For new chapters. She knew that life doesn't end when someone dies. It just changes. And we can either resist that change and drown, or we can embrace it and learn to swim. She was very wise. She was. And she would tell you that your parents didn't sell you. They set you free. They gave you the worst gift possible, but it led you to the best place possible. That's not luck. That's destiny. Amara smiled. I like that. Being here was my destiny, not my misfortune. Exactly. They sat in comfortable silence, two people who had found family in the unlikeliest of circumstances. Eventually, the twins came running across the lawn, calling for Amara to come help them with a school project. Kwame needed advice on a story he was writing. Naledi wanted to talk about university and whether she was making the right choice. Amara's life was full now. Not in the way she had once imagined, with a husband and biological children and a traditional family structure. But full in a deeper, more meaningful way. Full of purpose and love and belonging. As she walked back toward the house with Kofi, she thought about the woman she had been 6 months ago. That woman would never have believed this was possible. That woman had thought her life was over, that being barren meant being worthless, that being sold meant being discarded forever. But that woman had been wrong. Being barren had freed her to mother children who desperately needed mothering. Being sold had led her to a family who chose her. And being broken had taught her how to help others heal. The Mensa estate came into view, its windows glowing with light and life. Inside were 4 children who called her family, who sought her comfort, who valued her presence. Inside was a man who had honored his wife's dying wish and given Amara a second chance at life. Inside was a home that had once been a museum to grief but was now a testament to healing. Amara Mensah walked through the front door, followed by Kofi, and was immediately swept up in the beautiful chaos of family life. The twins pulled her toward the dining table covered in craft supplies. Kwame hovered nearby with his notebook, waiting for a quiet moment to get her attention. Naledi called down from upstairs about needing help with something. Mrs. Okoye appeared from the kitchen with fresh baked cookies, shaking her head at the mess but smiling nonetheless. This house has come alive again, she said to no one in particular. Praise be. That evening, after all the homework was done and the projects completed and the stories reviewed and the university questions answered, the family gathered one more time in the living room. It was becoming their ritual, this nightly gathering, this intentional time together. I have something I want to say, Amara announced, surprising herself. Everyone turned to look at her. When your father found me 6 months ago, I was at the lowest point of my life. I had been rejected by everyone who was supposed to love me. I thought my inability to have children made me worthless. I thought my life was over. She paused, looking at each of them. But you all taught me something important. You taught me that family isn't about biology. It's about choice. It's about showing up. It's about loving people through their pain and celebrating their joy and being present even when it's hard. You taught me that being barren doesn't mean being empty. My womb might be empty, but my heart is full. Fuller than it's ever been. Because I have you. All of you. Tears were flowing freely now, not just from Amara but from everyone in the room. I was sold because I was seen as worthless. But you chose me because you saw my worth. And in doing so, you gave me back my life. Not the life I thought I wanted, but the life I was meant to have. So thank you. Thank you for being my family. Thank you for healing with me. Thank you for showing me that sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead us exactly where we're meant to be. Naledi stood up and crossed to Amara, hugging her tightly. Thank you for staying. Thank you for not giving up on us, even when we were difficult. One by one, the others joined until Amara was surrounded by her family, her chosen family, her real family. And in that moment, she understood what Ada had known all along. That love isn't limited. That families come in all forms. That the people who save us are often the ones who need saving too. That being chosen is sometimes more powerful than being born into something. That night, alone in her room finally, Amara pulled out a journal Dr. Adeyemi had given her months ago. She had been encouraged to write her thoughts, her feelings, her journey. Most nights she was too tired or too emotional. But tonight, she felt compelled to capture this moment. She wrote, "My name is Amara Mensah. 6 months ago, I was sold by my parents for being barren. Today, I am a daughter, a sister, a mother figure to 4 incredible children. I am valued. I am chosen. I am home." To anyone reading this who feels worthless, who has been rejected, who thinks their story is over, it's not. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters. Sometimes being broken open is the only way to let the light in. Sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into. Don't give up. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning. She closed the journal and turned off the light, but sleep didn't come immediately. She lay there thinking about the incredible journey that had brought her here. From a village square to a billionaire's mansion. From being property to being family. From worthless to priceless. And she thought about all the other women out there, suffering in silence, believing the lies that culture and tradition told them about their worth. Maybe someday she would share her story publicly. Maybe someday she would become an advocate for women who couldn't have children, helping them see that their value wasn't tied to their fertility. But for now, she was content to live her story. To be present with this family. To heal and help others heal. To prove, every single day, that being chosen is a gift and that love comes in many forms. The last thing she remembered before sleep finally claimed her was the sound of laughter drifting through the house. Real laughter. Joyful laughter. The sound of a family that had survived grief and come out the other side stronger and more appreciative of each moment together. Amara smiled in the darkness. She had been sold for being barren. But she had been chosen for being brave. And in the end, that made all the difference. Her parents had tried to write the end of her story. But Kofi and his children had given her a new beginning. And this beginning, this beautiful, messy, imperfect, love-filled beginning, was worth everything she had endured to get here. She was Amara Mensah. She was barren but not empty. She was sold but not worthless. She was broken but healing. And she was finally, truly, completely home. Please subscribe, like and comment.